Hello, and welcome to the presentation of my 413 project. Okay, today we talked about the Chicago crime reporting data. So what I did was I just took a bunch of data off of data.gov, and the whole goal was to analyze historical crime data from the city of Chicago in order to make decisions about police preventative measures. So a bunch of different statistical analyses and graphical representations of the city of Chicago. So this way we could see which regions are being affected by crime the most. So the sources I used were the data.gov site and found the data for Chicago, the crime reporting codes, and I only chose the month of November 2015 because that's about 20,000 rows, which is about as much as MLPQ could handle. We talked about our entities and relationships, and here we have our different tables. You'll see November crimes is the area in which we have the X and Y values of each of the crimes and what time they took place during the day. That's the hour, as well as their specific identifiers, the crime codes, and then there's also the city of Chicago, which is our image, the police regions, which are split up by Voronoi diagrams. Those, again, are XY constraints. And then the FBI district, which, again, is another region that we created using constraints. So November crimes and crime codes, as you can see right here, these are all data that came from the actual data.gov site. It has the crime and the specific code associated with it. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more. Yeah, but again, the Chicago region is the one I just showed you a little bit of, and the FBI district as well. We'll go into a little bit more detail about what those are. Again, these are all data that we've discovered. So I used the image transformation to create a representation of the city of Chicago. As you can see there, it's very detailed. And then we have the Voronoi diagrams, which we use to split the region of Chicago into different areas. As you can see here, that's just a little bit of what the constraints of all those different Voronoi diagrams look like. I was created different regions using those Voronoi constraints to talk about the different regions. I just created like 4 random points on the map and made them into regions. And then I used the vector to constraints model to show the FBI district, which is what surrounds Chicago. That's the jurisdiction of the FBI for the city of Chicago. Then I used a piecewise linear approximation to show the narcotics crimes that happened over time. As you can see, where 0 is midnight and 23 is 11 p.m. This is over the whole month, and this is an aggregate of all of them. But as you can see, I use the piecewise linear approximation to show a graph. And as you can see, we actually see that the majority of narcotics crimes actually happened before midnight. It's around 9 or 10 p.m., which is strange. You'd figure it'd be more closer to midnight in the wee early hours of the morning. That was an interesting thing we found out. Now here's a quick animation that was done of the November crimes. As you can see, it's going to take a little bit to show up. You'll excuse me. Now, this video isn't in very great detail, but you can see the official animation inside as well. We can see that the green dots are what you're looking at, and that's just the crime at its individual point. I was going to get a buffer to have it show up more in depth, but as you can see that we do in fact see the different crimes happening over time as little green dots that appear. Just going to take another look at that again. Let's see if we can see it better this time. That's a second chance for you to see that. There is a video of it on YouTube, in the same area as this. Now we did some queries. We figured out how many crimes happen at midnight. So we did a count of all the different crimes that happen at a specific time. In this case, midnight, where time equals 0. How many crimes happened at District 1? And this is at noon, not midnight. That was a mistake on my part because time is equal to 12. But this is the Voronoi region that we created for the Police District 1. And we found that there were about 42 distinct crimes that happened at midnight over the course of the month. Excuse me, at noon. you have the X and Y data and the constraints that it fit in order to get inside of District 1. Now, in District 2, this is actually at midnight. We found 60 individual crimes that took place at exactly midnight within the region of District 2. Again, not surprising. How many crimes happened in District 3 at midnight? That was actually a lot more than we expected. We had around 11 and 18, or 118. And then District 4, we had 71. These are all, again, looking through the different constraints to see how many crimes are happening. And then to do a color change simulation, I decided to do a simulation of blackout. I'll actually be putting the specific videos of these 2 video simulations at the end to see, just as another quick example of how those happened. The files are all there in order to submit as well. We'll actually be seeing that again in further detail. I'll just pull that up. It's going to zoom in as best we can in order to show the data. We're going to see that the green dots will eventually turn black. This is simulating a blackout that happened in the city of Chicago. Now, of course, this is just the same question slide, but the future goals of this is that I'm going to clean up the data more to actually have all of the data fit within the side of Chicago. I have some data that ends up in Lake Michigan. That's not exactly correct. And then also creating a better animation of a single day of Chicago crime. That's kind of what the whole goal of this is. You know, different colors for different crimes and changing over T of like dependent on crime. So like orange crimes would be like drugs. And then again, we just have our sources, which were generally stated. Thank you so much. I'll show those videos again.